Welcome everyone to the Learn More Indiana Student Survey webcast. My name is Sue Reynolds, and it is my pleasure to be facilitating this webcast. I'm the Executive Director of the American Student Achievement Institute, and we administer the survey on behalf of Teresa Lovers, the Commissioner of the Indiana Commission for Higher Education, and Jason Bierce, the Associate Commissioner of the Commission for Higher Education, and also Director of Learn More Indiana. It's our privilege and our pleasure to administer the survey on behalf of Learn More. So here's our agenda for this webcast. We'll talk about the counselor survey, just do a quick overview. Then we'll do a quick overview of the student survey. We'll talk about the reports that you can get after you've given the survey, how to administer the survey, and then finally we'll end with navigating the survey online system. Okay, so let's begin with the counselor survey. The counselor survey is relatively new. Last year was the first year that we added it to the Learn More survey. And it is an optional survey. You do not have to take the counselor survey to give the student survey. It is optional. One school counselor from your school would take the survey on behalf of your school during the survey setup. While it is optional, we really hope that you will administer the counselor survey. We'll take it because we can get really good data statewide about programs that are being provided to kids, for kids, and how counselors use their time. So the survey does include these time use questions. You'll be asked to identify either by guess or by data that you've collected the percentage of your time that you're spending performing guidance tasks, counseling tasks, advocacy tasks, management, and non-program tasks. Those tasks are defined when you go into the student survey or the counselor survey, and those terms also align with redesigning school counseling that the Indiana Department of Education uses for its Gold Star School Counseling Program. Then the survey also asks you to estimate the percentage of students who participate in various guidance activities during the time that they spend in your school. So really what we're trying to determine with those questions is, do students have the opportunities to participate in various guidance activities? So the student survey, switching gears here, now we're talking about the student survey. The survey this year is available for all students in grades 8 through 12, and new this year there's also an elementary version of the survey. So this year students in grades 3 through 7 can also take the survey. We're very, very excited about that and very pleased that Learn More has added those questions to the survey. That means that the survey should now be administered by all Indiana schools, not only middle schools and high schools, but also elementary schools this year. Very pleased about that. So here's what the survey covers. The survey covers students' post-secondary plans, their college and career interests, and the choices that they make in areas that impact academic success and then post-secondary access and post-secondary success. So those choices questions ask students about the degree to which they're participating in a rigorous curriculum. It asks them questions about student engagement. It asks questions about their academic and career exploration, their post-secondary career exploration, and also their post-secondary and career planning. A lot of the questions in the first two parts, the rigorous curriculum and the student engagement, we find that a lot of principals really enjoy the data from those questions because that data will also help them with their school improvement planning. So that's the content of the first part of the survey. Then there are also some optional question sets that as the counselors you can choose to include in your student surveys. One optional set is a list of questions about students' guidance needs. Those questions are asking students about their perception of their own knowledge about academic and career options and academic and career pathways. Those questions are aligned with the Indiana student standards for guidance. So you're really kind of doing an assessment to see from the student's perspective, have they mastered the student standards that are part of that list. And then the second set of questions that is also optional, and you can put on the survey or not put on the survey, your choice, is a list of questions about students' personal social issues which they believe to be interfering with their learning. So there's questions on there about bullying and stress and you know, just the typical developmental stressors that could be interfering with learning. And then the last optional set of questions ask students their perceptions about their school counselor. And specifically, we're asking about the counselors, their perception of their counselor's knowledge and their skills and their dispositions. So the other thing about these questions is that they're all age appropriate. So for the third grade guidance needs, we're aligning that with the third grade standards. And for the senior guidance needs, we're aligning that with the senior standards, which would include questions about FAFSA and things like that. So those are the three optional sets, and I'll show you when we get to the part about setting up the survey about how to include or exclude those question sets from your students' surveys. Okay, so once the students have taken the surveys, really the value is the reports that come out of the survey that you give. So I'd like to really spend some time on those reports and to talk about why that we think that that information is so important to you as counselors. And really, if the survey reports weren't valuable, I wouldn't see any reason for giving the survey. It's the value of the reports for you that makes the survey valuable. Okay, so first of all, let's look at group data and what kind of data you can find from the survey for the groups in your school. So this is what the survey reports look like. Each one of those little buttons there represents a different report. So the most basic report is the summary report, and I've highlighted there the icon that you would click to get the summary report for all questions. But you may not want all questions, so you also have the opportunity to say, just give me a report that includes plans and choices, or guidance needs, or student assistance, or counselor perceptions. You'll notice that some of the icons are yellow and some are blue, and if you opted not to give the optional sets, some of those icons would just not even be there. The yellow icons represent reports that are only available to school counselors. They are not available to the public. So you can see that all of the reports about students' student assistance needs, personal social needs, are not available to the public, and the public can never see any of the responses about students' perceptions of their school counselors. So we feel that those two reports should only be available to school counselors. But the public can access the other reports. They can look to see in their community what students' plans are for post-secondary and what choices they're making that would help them be successful in school and to get to post-secondary. And they can also access reports, the guidance needs reports, that show the community what knowledge the students have in areas related to academic and career development. So, but all the others the yellow ones are just for counselors. Also wanted to show you that there are drill down reports. So you may want to look at how are students responding by grade level? How do my 7th graders responses different than my senior responses? So you can order a grade level report. You can also order a student group drill down report. So you may be curious, how do boys' responses differ from girls' responses? Or how do Hispanic responses compared to other responses? How do paid lunch students compare to free and reduced lunch students? How do students who are enrolled in Indiana's 21st Century Scholar Program, how do they compare to kids who aren't enrolled in that program? IEP status, so you can look at your special ed kids. You can also disaggregate the data by parental college, whether the kids' parents have been to college or not. And one of my favorite ways to disaggregate, I think it's really interesting, is to see what choices kids make when they get A's and B's on their report card versus kids who get D's and F's on their report card. So all of these drill down groups are based on student self-reports. So we've asked the students, do you participate in 21st Century Scholars? Do you get A's and B's on your report card? So it is based on a student response to the demographic questions. You also have the ability to create your own student group, and we'll talk about a very exciting part of this survey, which is the student list generator. As a school counselor, you can also get the names and contact information, including email addresses, for students who answer questions in specific ways. But I do want to point out that that data is not available to the counselors for any questions about student assistance or personal social needs, and it's also not available. You can never get a list of questions who have a list of students who have answered a specific question about how do kids feel about their counselors in a specific way. Also, please notice that the student list generator is never available to the public. The only people that can get lists of students are counselors, and not for all questions, just the plans and choices and the guidance needs questions. Okay. So here's an example of what some of the reports would look like. This is the plans and choices questions, and these questions are about student engagement. Do you usually ask your teachers for help? Do you always turn in your homework? Were you absent fewer than 10 times? Were you sent to the office? So these are all questions based on choices that we think kids make, and these are student engagement choices. Here are examples of future plan questions. What do you plan to do in the first year after high school? And what type of high school diploma do you expect to receive? Of course, remember that the surveys are age level appropriate. So these questions would be examples on the high school survey and the middle school survey, but these questions would not be on a third grade survey. More questions about student choices, and again, these are for some of the older students. Did you visit a college campus this year? Did you complete the college cost estimator? Did you attend a program about financial aid? And then guidance needs. These are questions about student knowledge. Can you describe the level of education that is required for jobs that interest you? Do you know how to find jobs that match your interests? Can you demonstrate effective practice for interviewing? And again, these questions are the ones that align with the Indiana Student Standards for Guidance that was published by the Indiana Department of Education. Examples of student assistance needs, and remember this data is only available to counselors and only for groups, not for individual students. Controlling my anger is making it difficult for me to succeed at school. Fighting or hitting is making it difficult for me to succeed at school. Drugs or alcohol is making it difficult for me to succeed at school. And the perceptions of counselors, some examples of those. Does your school counselor care about you? Do they have high goals for you? Do they believe that all students are important? And again, this data is only available for counselors and only as group data, never for individual students. So this is kind of a review, but it's putting what we've said about who can access data into a table. So we can see that the public it has access to plans and choice questions and to guidance needs. The public cannot access student assistance, perception of the counselors, or the counselor survey responses. School counselors have access to all those questions, and colleges can also, Indiana colleges, can also access student data for plans and choices and guidance needs. They can use that for their outreach programs, as can Learn More Indiana. But again, anything about student assistance, perception of the counselors, and the counselor survey responses are not available to anybody but the school counselors. Okay, so that's the data you can get out of the system. Now let's talk about how to use it. So the group data can be used to inform decisions about school improvement. We find that principals love this data. To inform decisions about your school counseling program, community outreach programs, and also state agencies, the Department of Ed and Learn More Indiana. So just as an example, some of you may have heard of the Indiana College Success Coalition. Hopefully your school is a member of your county's coalition. And when the community organizations are working to increase post-secondary attendance and completion, we provide them with data about the choices that kids are making in grades K-12 or 3-12 that will open the door or close the door to post-secondary education. So that's available for this community initiative. And then the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Initiative, this data also informs that program. And in that system, the schools can click on Student Survey and up pops the results from the Learn More data, the Learn More survey. Now, I also wanted to look at the drill down data and what that can say. So let's say I'm looking at the question, do you know where to find extra help in your courses? And about 75-ish% of the kids say that they do, but 25% say no or they're not sure. So I may want to know, well, which kids are saying that they don't know where to find this extra help? So if I go to a drill down report by grade level, I can see that pretty much it's the same all across grades, and that may be really important to know. My intuition would have told me that it was the 9th graders who are just entering my school who don't know where to find extra help. But you can see that the 9th graders are, their data is about the same as the 10th graders and 11th graders and 12th graders. That pretty much is just a 4% difference between the 9th graders and the 12th graders in terms of the report that say yes to that question. So while I might have pulled in all my 9th graders to do programming for extra help, that's probably not the kids that I'd want to focus on. I might also guess that it has something to do with income level. So I can pull up the drill down by free and reduced and paid lunch students, and I can see that there is a little bit of a discrepancy here that paid lunch students report at a higher rate that they know where to find extra help for when they're struggling than the free reduced lunch kids. But while there is a gap there, it's an 8% gap. At 8%, I would probably worry about that, and I'd be wanting to focus on my free and reduced lunch kids in my school counseling program a little bit. But I might also have some other questions. And again, I mentioned earlier, one of my favorite reports is the report card grades. For students who are reporting that they get A's and B's, B, C's, C's, D's, D's, and F's on the report card, you can see that there's a huge discrepancy in the percentage of kids who are saying that they know where to find extra help. So 85% of the kids who get A's and B's say they know where to find extra help, while only 26% say that they know where to get extra help if they're getting D's and F's on the report card. So then I may wonder, well, who are those kids that fall in the percentage that don't know where to find extra help? So if I look down to the kids who say no, they don't know where to find extra help, there's 15 kids in that group, and there's 11 kids in the group that say they're not sure. So there's at least 26 kids that I can look at and do programming with that don't know where to find extra help in our school. So my next question might be, who are those kids? And that's where we can go to the student list generator as a school counselor to find out who those kids are. So let's talk about the student list generator. First of all, you can only get student names if the kids opt in during the survey. So in the survey, we ask the kids, would you like your school counselor to provide you with individualized information about how to plan, prepare, and pay for college? And then we further tell them that if they give yes, that means that we're going to release their contact information, their demographic information, to their school counselor along with the responses to their surveys. I know a lot of counselors have encouraged students while they're taking the survey, when you get to this question, say yes, because that will allow us to find out where we can help you and provide you information that you need. Then there's another question that says, would you like Indiana colleges to provide you with this information? And again, for the colleges to be able to see the student names and contact information, kids have to answer yes to this question, and they have to report that they're interested in this college. For FERPA regulations, we needed affirmative on both of those questions. And then finally, with Learn More, same thing. There's another question that says, would you like to get individualized information from Learn More? And if the kids say yes, this allows Learn More to send out individualized mailings and emails to kids based on the responses to the survey. Okay, if you have any questions about FERPA with our release of information, we have gone to great lengths to make sure that all of our handling of student information is FERPA compliant. And we can provide you a copy of this letter if you'd like later, but this documentation that everything in the survey and our handling of the student data is FERPA compliant. Okay, so to get the student information on the report list, the very last report there is the student list generator. And if you click on one of those icons, you'll go to a report, a page that looks like this, and this is where you start ordering the report. So on the first page, you're selecting the student characteristics. So as an example, let's say we're going to tell the computer, give me a list of students who report that they get A's and B's on a report card. And also let's include this criteria. They not only get A's and B's on a report card, but they also say that they're planning to attend a 2-year or 4-year college, and they report that they're not going to take an AP class in high school, or they're not sure if they're going to take an AP class in high school. And I'd like an email list for those students. So what would happen here is you'd get an email list for all of the kids who report that they get A's and B's, they're planning to go to college, and are not planning to take an AP course. And then that would allow you to just send them an email that where you could write to them, gosh, on the Learn More survey, you reported that you get A's and B's and that you're going to college and that you're not thinking about taking an AP class. Here's some of the reasons why you would want to take an AP class at our school. And then you'd, complete the rest of that email. There's all kinds of targeted emails that you could send kids this way. You can ask the computer to give you the email list with commas in between them or semicolons. So depending on what email tool you're using, somewhat commas, somewhat semicolons, you can get it both ways. And you can also ask the computer to give you mailing labels. So this would come up as an Excel spreadsheet, but you could use that spreadsheet and then create mailing labels about it. In the same example, you might say, give me a list of the students, but give me mailing labels. And then you could send letters to those kids' parents explaining about AP and why that's so important. So there's all kinds of things that you could do here. You could ask for a list of third graders who report getting A's and B's, who report getting D's and F's on the report card and also don't know where to find extra help. And then you might call those kids into your office and have a meeting with them and say, on the survey you said you didn't know where to get extra help. Let's talk about where to get extra help in our elementary school. Another example that I think would be a huge time saver for high school counselors is you could go in and just say, give me the email addresses for kids who are interested in Ball State. And then you could send them an email that says, the Ball State rep's going to be in our building Thursday at 2. Come to our office to get a pass if you're interested. So just all kinds of targeted guidance and targeted information that you can put out using the student list generator. So again, who can create student lists? The public can never get a student name, And you in colleges and Learn More can never get student names for student assistance questions or perception of the counselor questions. But for student choices and guidance needs and for student interests in post-secondary plans, you can get that in a limited way for students who ask for information and for the colleges who not only ask for information but also say that they're interested in that college. Okay, so let's move on and talk about administering the survey. And first of all, the survey takes about 30 minutes for students to do all 4 survey question sets. So about 30 minutes is what a student would need to do the survey. Survey window is March 15th to June 15th. It's a 3-month window. And I wanted to explain why we're giving the survey online rather than doing a paper survey. First of all, giving the survey online saves printing, shipping, and data processing costs. That was hugely expensive to the state, as you can imagine. Giving the survey online is also environmentally friendly, but one of the very nice things is that it allows you to be able to get the results immediately. As soon as you have 10 students survey, the results are open to you. And then as you survey more and more students, of course the survey results would be constantly updated, but it's real time. So if you've surveyed 200 students in the morning, you can get their data. If you've surveyed 240 in the afternoon, you can get data based on 240. The other thing that's nice about the online survey is that it allows us to disaggregate the data immediately so that you can get data for those various student groups. Okay, so the question we always get is how do we get all of our students to a computer? So I want to spend some time talking about that because I know that that's a challenge. As a former school counselor for many, many years, I know that this is a challenge. So first thing I want to point out is that it is possible to survey every student in your school. We've had hundreds and hundreds of schools do this. It does take planning ahead. So a couple things that are helpful to remember is that not all students have to survey at the same time. You could survey your 3rd graders in March and your 5th graders in May. So you could survey, one teacher's students today and another teacher's students tomorrow. It really doesn't matter. Just sometime in that 3-month window, we just need to get all the kids to the computer. The other thing that's really helpful, counselors have told us, is to help your administrators and your teachers understand the value of the survey so that they want to engage in it. That's why I took the time earlier to explain to you about all of the student engagement questions that are in the survey that will help with your school improvement. So the responses to those questions should be very helpful to your teachers and to the administration as they're developing their school improvement plans. So 2 ways that counselors have told us that are they feel the best way to administer the survey to all students in the building. The first way is to engage teachers as survey administrators. So to do that, in option 1, you would provide all of your teachers with the survey website and instructions for how to give the survey, which we're going to provide for you, and then grade level codes, which you'll get when you set up the survey. And then we're just asking all of the teachers to survey sometime with their students between March 15th and June 15th. So in 3 months, we're asking them to take a half an hour and with just their students to give that survey. So in an elementary survey, that would mean that each student would give the survey just to their classroom. In a middle school or high school, the way to accomplish the same thing is to ask all students in a given period, all teachers in a given period to give the survey. So you may ask all your 2nd period teachers, sometime in the next 3 months, could you give the survey to all of your 2nd period students? If every teacher gives it to their 2nd period students, you'll cover every student in the building. So it's just a really easy way to kind of get others to help you with this survey administration where it's not overly time consuming time consuming for any one person. As an alternative, we have a lot of counselors who have decided to just bring 20 to 30 students at a time into a computer lab, and over several days, you know, bringing in 30 kids at a time, they hit the whole school. So, so those are different options that you have. I think most counselors are using option 1. Would help very much to have buy-in from your principal to do that. But again, if your principal understands that there are student engagement questions on this survey that are comparable to many student engagement surveys that they would pay to administer, that they would pay for, a lot of principals would want to jump on board with this. Okay, so that's getting kids to the computer. Another question that we often have is, why is the survey given in the spring when schools are so busy with testing and all the year-end things? The reason we're giving it in the spring is because we're asking students about the choices that they made this year. If we gave the survey in the fall, we'd have to be asking students about the choices that they made in the previous year, and we found that when we did that at one time, we didn't feel that the results were reliable, that kids got mixed up, they didn't know if we were talking about this year or last year, they couldn't remember. And then if we gave the survey in the middle of the year, the students wouldn't have participated in your school counseling programs that happen in the spring, and so they'd be saying, no, we didn't do this stuff, when in reality they just hadn't gotten to it yet. So we put the survey in the end of the year so that kids could answer questions about what they did this year, and then we tried to help by making the survey window large so that you could have a long period that you could administer the survey. The other thing about giving the spring survey is that allows seniors to answer questions about the senior year. If we gave it in the fall, we'd be having to go to college kids and saying, think back to your senior year. What, did you do these things? So it just made a whole lot of sense to give the survey in the spring. And again, with that 3-month window, we hope you'll be able to find time to work it in. So schools have told us that they think that the best time for giving the survey is in late March, and then in early April, and especially in the high schools, they tell us that those two time periods tend to avoid the AP testing windows, and then also for all schools the state testing windows. So again, 3-month survey window, hopefully in that time you'd be able to find significant time to give that to all of your students. Okay, so that's how to get to computers and finding the time. Now let's talk about actually getting online. How do we navigate the online system? Okay, so to get to where you need to go to set up the survey and then give the survey, you would go to learnmoreindiana.org. You'd go to their front page and then scroll down. And when you scroll down, you're going to find a section that says Top Links, and there will be a link there to the Learn More Indiana Student Survey. So just click on that link, and that will take you to the setup website. You can also get there directly by going to learnmoreindiana.org/survey. So you can either go through the Learn More front page, or you can just do the Learn More address/survey, and that will take you right to the survey setup and administration page. So here is what the page looks like when you enter the survey. And the thing that I'd like to point out to you is the left navigation bar. In the left navigation bar, there's 4 sections. There's a section for schools, a section for students, and a section for colleges, and then a section for the public. And what we'd like to look at there is that in the school section, you can get to instructions, you can get to a setup page, and then a reports page. Students can get to take the survey. Colleges will get to the student list generator that's available for them, and then the public can get to all the public reports from that page. So let's look at the instructions page. On the instructions page, you'd come to a page that looks like that, And I wanted to point out here that there's a section that says see the questions. And if you click on that, you can see all the survey questions. And then there's also a set that says set up the survey. And then instructions for giving the survey. Okay, so now let's go back and let's click on the setup. In order to set up the survey, you have to have your school's username and password. These were mailed to the lead counselor in your school in February of 2010. They are also the very same username and password that schools participating in Gold Star use when they use the Redesigning School Counseling to log into that system. It's the very same password. Now, we realize that a lot of schools have lost or forgotten that password, so you can see there right underneath the login boxes, there's a little section where you can download a form where your principal can request a new username and password, and then the principal would also direct us on who to send that username and password to. So if you've lost your password, no problem at all, just send us one of those forms and we'll get you a new one. Okay, so when we get to the setup page, the first thing that's going to open after you log in is this page that says, would you like to take the counselor survey? And if you click yes, then it verifies take the counselor survey. Click on that, and then the survey will come up. And you can see the top part of the survey asks you to indicate the percentage of time that you're spending on those different types of school counseling tasks. We're also asking, is this percentage based on a guess, or is it actually based on a time task log that you've kept? The schools participating in the Indiana Gold Star have kept this time log, so they have data that will behind those percentages. And if you haven't participated in Gold Star, that's fine. You can just enter your guesses there. That's good. Then the bottom part of the counselor survey asks you to estimate the percentage of students who have done different activities. This is looking at opportunities that kids have, like take a learning styles assessment, enroll in Algebra 1, enroll in an AP class. And then we're asking you who provides this opportunity. Is it the school? Is it a group other than the school? Is it not provided, or you're not sure? So if you'll complete that, that will give us some really great statewide data to help us understand what kids are doing and what opportunities they have, what opportunities they don't have. Okay, then once you've done that, or once you've said that you're not going to do that, then the next part of the survey setup takes you to the student survey part. And there's a couple sections on this page I would like to point out. First of all, we're reminding you that if you're participating in the Ask a Ramp program or the Indiana Gold Star program, that you need to have data from all those 4 different types of questions. So on that section, you can just say, yes, I'm participating in one of those programs, and then just check yes, that you want all 4 question sets. When you click yes, then the system will automatically indicate all 4 question sets for you. You can also here, before you say that you want to include a question set, you can look at the questions again. If you want to verify one last time before you include the questions, what they are, you can look there. After you've checked all the question sets that you want to include, your choice, then just click the Submit button, and when you do, that will customize the survey for your students. It will only include the question sets that you wanted to include. Immediately, as soon as you've submitted your selection, the computer will tell you, here are your survey codes. These codes are very important. I would write them down right away. You can always get back into the computer to find them, but I think it's just helpful if you write them down immediately. And also, please be sure that they're accurate when you write them down. These codes will be entered by the students when they take their survey, and that tells our computer that this is a 4th grader at your school, or it's a 2nd grader, or I'm sorry, a 3rd grader at your school, or it's a senior. It also tells us when we're compiling the reports, which reports to put that student's responses in. So please, please, please write those surveys codes down and make sure they're accurate. You don't want to put your students' responses onto somebody else's, some other school's results. So, and then just notice that the students will enter these codes when they go to the survey welcome page. We also verify here that the question sets that you've selected, and until the first survey is taken, you can edit that selection. So if you look on there and you say, oh no, I didn't mean to put the perceptions questions on there, you can just go back to setup, just click setup there and change it. But once the first survey is taken, you're locked in. You have to include those questions. Okay, so in taking the survey, so I'm now back to the left navigation bar, and I'm going to click on the Students section, take the survey. Let's talk about administering the survey. Usually what happens is that you'll bring all of your students to a room, house and computers, or the students will already be in their second period classroom or their fourth period classroom. You need to make sure that that room has computers with internet access. And then typically what happens is that the teacher or you will write on the blackboard, here's the website for taking the survey, and it's www.learnmoreindiana.org/student survey. And then you also will have written the codes up there for the grades that exist in your school. So your third graders, fifth graders, those, whatever the grades are for your school. Then you're going to ask the students, or the teachers will ask the students, to go to that website to enter the appropriate code for their grade level and then take the survey. So here's the students go to the survey page, and you can see the first thing that they're asked is please put in the code. They'll write their code in there and then click next. We've also on this page described for them the confidentiality in this, so if they want to read about confidentiality before taking the survey, they can look at it there. And then we've also given them information about their participation, which is that to comply with Indiana laws, their participation in the survey has to be voluntary. So the students can say, I wish not to take the survey, and that would be fine. It is voluntary, and we do say that at the bottom of this page. We notify students that it's not a required survey, that it's voluntary. Okay, so when the students, after they enter their codes, the first thing that happens is that we're asking them information about them. This information is linked only to the student choice questions and the guidance questions. So they'll enter their name and their address and their phone and all the demographic questions. So here's the demographic questions. What gender are you? What race are you? In every one of the demographics, they can say, I wish not to answer this. So if they don't want to say if they're, if they're free and reduced lunch or whatever, they don't have to. And then when they get to the student choice questions, those questions look like this. So it gives them the question, and then it gives them the various answers. A lot of the questions are just yes, no, or not sure. It says basically, did you do this? Yes, I did it. No, I didn't do it, or I'm not sure. Here's what the guidance questions look like. Remember, these were optional questions, so if you didn't include them, they would not be on your student surveys. But do you have a way to keep track of your assignments and deadlines? Yes, no, or not sure. Can you name your learning style? Yes, no, not sure. So students just read the questions, click the appropriate answer. Then this part I want to explain. The students will think that this is strange, and without an explanation it probably would seem strange. The Learn More survey is actually two surveys butted up against each other and in a way that's seamless. The students won't know that they're exiting one survey and going into another survey. The second survey is not associated in any way with anything that could identify an individual student. So on the second survey, we asked questions about the student assistance questions and what did they think about their school counselor questions. We don't want those questions to be linked to anything that's identifiable. That's why they're in the second survey. But we do want to be able to disaggregate into student groups based on the demographics. And because of that, and because the second set of questions is a separate survey, we have to ask the demographic questions again. So, what students, when they're taking the survey, this is all invisible, appears like one survey, but they'll get about halfway through, and if you have opted to include the counseling or the student counselor perception questions, about halfway through, they'll get the set of questions that asks them a second time about their gender and their race and their ethnicity and all that. And the kids are going to say, whoa, I just answered those questions. So what we would suggest is if they raise their hand and say, or the teachers say, you know, the same questions were on there twice about the demographics, you can just tell them that you know, and that was to protect student confidentiality. You might even want to, matter of fact, in the teacher instructions, it explains this, that their students will see the demographics questions twice, and that's to protect confidentiality. So I just wanted to explain that with you. It was how we had to set up the survey in order to protect that confidentiality of the students on those questions. Okay, so then in the student assistance questions, those are kind of the same as the guidance questions, except on these we also are giving students the ability to prefer not to answer if they feel this is sensitive or whatever and they don't want to answer these questions. That's fine. And then same thing with the perceptions of the school counselors. A student could opt out of answering any of those questions that they don't want to answer. Okay, so that's giving the survey. I also wanted to talk about just the progress indicator. As students are taking the survey, we kind of show them what part of the survey they're in. So the first part is about you, then plans and choices, then guidance, and then there's the second part about you where they come to those same demographic questions again, and then assistance, perceptions, and thank you. Again, if you've opted to leave any of those sets off, they will not appear there. Okay, so wanted to just show you very quickly what the colleges are going to be able to see after you give your survey. So the colleges can log into the student list generator from that same public page, and they are asked for a username and password, and then on their admin page, before they can access any student data, they sign a whole bunch of assurances that compel them to also comply with FERPA regulations. So, and there's all these other kind of cautions that we put in here to make sure that the data is going to be FERPA compliant. Of course, these are public institutions and they're educational institutions, so they're already required to be FERPA compliant, but we just want to make sure before we release the data that they are saying, yes, we're doing these things. And then they can go in and create a list of student email addresses or student mailing addresses so that they can send targeted information out to students who have requested information from the college and who have said that they're interested in the college. Okay, and again, this is all password protected. Each college has their own username and password to do this. Okay, then let's look at the public reports. Just want to kind of look at that real quickly. The public goes to this page also. They click on reports, and then they go to a page that looks like this where they can design the report they want. They identify the year of the data that they want, a level if they're looking for just school level data or county level data or state level data, and then they can select the specific school whose data they want to see, and then the grade levels. Remember too that it's only the student choices and the guidance data that's going in here. It's not the counseling, the student assistance, or the perceptions of the school counselor data that's public. When the public enters all of that, then the next thing they get is a list of all those reports. Notice that all the private reports are not available. There's no yellow icons here. That's only available on your page where after you log in. Okay, so any questions after the webinar that you have about the survey should be directed to our organization, the American Student Achievement Institute, on behalf of Learn More Indiana and the Indiana Commission for Higher Ed. There's our phone number, and there's an email address that you can use to send email to us if you would like to ask a question about the survey or have a comment about the survey. So I thank everybody for participating in the survey, and again, if you have questions, please feel free